Yo, Eric, you there, boss?
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Triple Crown ESC podcast. Got a special guest, man. I just met this guy today. I had to talk to him. I literally met him this morning on Facebook. The internet's a wonderful thing. You can connect with people all over the world quickly, and you never know. So, formerly of Jackson State, a half-miler standout, All-American. I have with me today Eric Speers. No S, right? Just Eric Speers.
No S, sir.
Because when I first saw me, I thought you said Aries Spears. I'm like, is this the comedian? But no. But yeah, man, definitely, first off, I just want to thank you for being on the show and being willing to talk about what we're going to talk about. So first, I just want to say that, man. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, not a problem, man. Thanks for having me.
So everybody knows what I'm talking about right now. Tiana Bartoletta, formerly Tiana Madison of the U.S. Team. She's made a few teams, phenomenal athlete, had a very good career so far and probably has some more good meets and championships ahead of her. He knows her personally. And I was on Facebook, and I read I don't remember who reposted it, man, but somebody reposted it, and I was just reading it, and I'm like, damn, this dude is, like, putting it out there. So, I mean, not from my mouth, from your mouth, kind of catch them up to speed on what I'm talking about, Eric.
All right, man. Well, you know, anyone that has followed my journey in the sport of track and field knows that I come from very humble beginnings, originally from Tampa, Florida, blood, sweat, and tears, you know, the ugly part, not the beach, not where you go when you want a vacation, but, you know, I did things the hard way there. And, you know, I came across an article in the Tampa Bay Times covering Tiana Madison and her husband, Tiana Bartoletta, and her husband, John Bartoletta. And, you know, this story that was put out there in the Tampa Bay Times was alarming to me because as I'm reading the story, I'm not recognizing anything that I'm reading about this person that I've known, you know, throughout the years. And, you know, just to be more specific, you know, the story paints a picture that Tiana, you know, has this rags to riches story and you know, she's come from, you know, the bottom and it also paints a picture of her parents, you know, in a derogatory manner. And I just wanted to set the record straight because, you know, Tiana is a high profile in the sport of track and field and you know, to create a story full of untruths, you know, whether to garner more attention or celebrity or, you know, just to have people to grow a following, you know, based on false merits and untruths, you know, it's just totally, to me, it's just unacceptable. And especially to do it in a city that, you know, I'm from. And that, you know, because you have a lot of young people in the city that are looking up to you and people are, you know, they have her and her husband, they have a website, U Nation, I believe. And, you know, basically, you know, it is garnering donations and everything like that from people in the community. And so, you know, putting a story out, whether it to be to make people sympathetic of her, it's drawing the wrong type of attention because it's not true and it's not fair. And so,
all right, so I'm gonna go right in. I was dopest intro you could have gave, man. There's no filter for me. Anybody that know me is never gonna be a filter. So the first part, like, we're gonna start this way. So the first part of this, y'all have to understand, this isn't some random person that's just online that saw a story. This is somebody that has a past with this young lady, somebody that knows her person. So
right.
This isn't some random source. This man knows this woman. So the first part of the story that caught my attention was, like, I seen you wrote something about them meeting on Match.com or some online dating site.
That is correct, and that actually can be verified, you know, by her younger sister, Christina Madison, who was also a big time long jumper for Purdue, you know, and right, and so you know that can be verified, but they definitely met on Match.com, and you know, I read in the story where they met at a restaurant, and she happened to have her medals with her. You know, who goes to a restaurant wearing their medals? You know, that doesn't make any sense at all. Let's keep it 100. You know, I'm one of those guys in the track world that everyone knows. Everyone knows Coach E. and that's from any current Olympic athlete, and you know, they'll tell you, you know, I'm the same guy. You know, I'm not gonna lie about anything or sugarcoat anything. You know, I didn't get my following based on, you know, anything other than just being real.
So check. So the story says she just randomly had her medal, like she was in this restaurant with her medal. Like maybe she was happy though. Like somebody win their medal, right? They could be very proud. Like they could just be a happy person to have won something. Maybe she was just rocking her medal 24/7.
Right. Well, you go ahead and poll any track and field athlete in America and ask them, you know, is this something that's a common practice? And I know you podcast with Justin Gatlin, which I know as well. I've actually met Justin, and we've actually had conversations about Tiana because he's also, you know, he attended University of Tennessee. So yeah, let's ask Jay Gatt, you know, does he rock his medals to any restaurant, you know? But it's false. It's misleading, you know, and the bottom line is, and this one is for, you know, Miss Joanne Madison and Coach Bob Madison. Man, they are tremendous parents. I dated Tiana Madison, you know, back when I was in high school, and I went through so much, man, you know, coming from a very traumatic situation. You know, those that follow me know. Yeah.
And on that, though, don't brush over that. Like, you know, when you say you went through, you know, a hard background, there's a lot of people that may be going through similar things and not feeling like they're going to be able to make it out of the situation. If you don't mind talking about it, man, I'd like to hear you go in a little depth about your story. I mean, we can always circle back around. We kind of know that just this conversation, we're going to be talking about a lot of that. But, you know.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely, which is why I wanted to set the record straight on the Tiana situation because, man, you know, you're creating or portraying this story about how hard your life was when really, you know, you came from a very, very privileged background. And I'll tell you, you know, around the time and even before, you know, meeting Tiana, you know, I was a kid, man, that, you know, the highest education background in my family was the 8th grade. And I met a coach at the Parks and Recreation in Tampa. And, you know, she put a baton in my hand and gave me a T-shirt, and I started running AAU track, you know, at the age of around 8 years old. And you know, throughout my adolescence, man, I grew up in a very tough environment down in Tampa, Florida, man, that, you know, it wasn't conducive to the matriculation of a successful young black man. A lot of violence, drugs, you know, I had to hustle at an early age. You know, my mother was dealing with the virus, man, HIV, you know, 15 years old, man, you know, single parent. Yeah, we grew up hard, man. I spent a lot of time, man, you know, abandoned houses, you know, living week to week wherever we could, you know, housing authority, the whole nine with government assistance, man. A lot of poverty, drugs, violence. Spent some time in youth homes, detention centers, man. You know, I didn't have a father. I grew up, you know, I had to go out, man, and try to find a way to make something happen at a young age. And, yeah.
Sorry, man, not to cut you off, but a Florida guy, and people are hearing, and they're going to say, like, you know, Tiana's from Ohio. This guy's background is from Florida. How does he even know her?
How do I know Tiana? Well, my mother is actually, her roots are in Delaware, Ohio, on down to Sandusky. And those that know Tiana, you know, they know that she's from Elyria, Ohio, which is about, you know, per se between Cleveland and Sandusky. From Sandusky, it's about 30 minutes. And, you know, midway through high school, you know, my mother, she became ill. Her virus had advanced to the later stages, and she wanted to be closer to her family in Ohio, and she thought that, you know, it'd be good for me to meet them. So, you know, I moved to Ohio, you know, after being an all-state finalist, finishing fourth in the 800 meters. And those that know, you know, that year that I ran in Florida, man, you know, Sonia Richards, you know, Brashawn Jackson. So I was running at a high level then in Florida, man, and moved to Ohio. And I met Tiana during that year back, and I want to give the correct year here. 2002 is when I met Tiana, and we met at a regional track meet in Amherst, Ohio. I qualified for the 800 meters and, you know, competed there, and, you know, we met at a track meet. And from that point, you know, I was invited. Actually, I was invited to, she had an event going on, for school and you know, a party, and she threw a party at her house in Elyria and invited some track friends, and we had developed a rapport, you know, after meeting each other, and I met her parents, at that, you know, at that event. And, from that point, you know, we kept in touch, over the next year, and then we began, you know, dating, shortly thereafter that. So, you know, I met Tiana after my move to Ohio and, competing, you know, through the sport of track and field.
Right. And I also, man, something that really kind of stuck out to me was that, you really were kind of going to bat for her parents. Like, it was a big deal for you to kind of make sure that her parents weren't represented or portrayed in a negative light. So do you know her parents well? Have they done anything for you? Like, what kind of caused you to say, I'm going to go to bat, I'm going to make sure that her parents, her family's not looking like trash in this article that I'm reading?
Well, the first thing that I want to say is this. Around the time that I met Tiana, you know, Tiana, she came across at that particular time in my life, you know, and I will say this on record, you know, Tiana is a great individual. You know, she was an outstanding individual on the track. She was an honor student, and it was basically representation of her family. When I met her family, you know, the first thing that they asked me about is, hey, you know, do you go to church? You know, that was the biggest thing. You know, they wanted to know if I was involved in a church. They wanted to know what my grades were like. You know, they were the type of parents that, you know, how's your family? And I had a situation where I had a single mother who was ill, and they immediately, you know, regardless of at the time, they met me before I started dating Tiana, and I was just a friend. And, you know, they reached out to me, you know, as if, you know, I was one of their children right away. You know, hey, we want to invite you to church, you know, and we want to follow up with you. And they did all of her friends like that, all of her teammates from Elyria. You know, if they were having any issues, they were the type of parents that would try to help you out as much as possible. So, you know, during that time that I dated Tiana, you know, the biggest thing that, you know, I can say about her parents is that, you know, they helped me out. There were times where I didn't have food. They make sure that I had food. They would drive down, you know, to where I lived 30 minutes away to bring me a hot meal. You know, they were the type that would take me shopping and you know, make sure that I had some clothes for school or different things of that nature. And, you know, during the course of our relationship, you know, we dated from senior year of high school on to when she signed and went to the University of Tennessee. And although, you know, I wasn't their son, you know, they knew that I didn't have a lot of support going into college. And so faithfully, every month they would send me a care package, you know, and make sure that I had, you know, things, you know, and that I was taken care of.
So, damn. So, I get it now. So, wow, man, that's huge. So, obviously, these people they've made a huge impact on your life and other, you know, people like you that were her friends or around her, anybody they could.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is what I'm going to say, because this is going to go out to the internet. This is going to the world. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, there are going to be people that hear this interview, that listen to this podcast, and they're going to be like, this dude is bitter as shit. They're going to say, this dude is mad because he's just mad because he dated her, blah, blah, blah. She done went and got this old guy. She was this guy. She's happy now, and he's trying to besmirch her, throw some dirt. So what would you say to those people to say that this isn't coming from that place? Or, I mean, damn, is it coming from that place? Like, what would you say to let them know that it's not coming from a place like that? You just want the truth to be out there and not no BS story about I'm in a restaurant with my damn medals on and we just hit it all and all of a sudden support me. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say this to anyone out there that's listening to this interview. If you followed my story, which is highly documented, okay, I've done everything that I've done in the sport of track and field, you know, on my own merits. I've never come up in the industry off of anyone's name or name dropping or anything like that. And, you know, far from bitter, but I definitely have an invested interest in the well-being of her parents, because let me say this, during the time that my mother was passing away on her deathbed, her parents were the ones that would faithfully drive over and spend endless hours with her, and Tiana did too. And so at the end of the day, this is deeper than that. You know, I have an invested interest in how they feel because the world has looked at them as being unfit parents. And that's totally unacceptable because, you know, there were some statements made by Tiana and her husband that were egregious towards, you know, people that I consider to be my parents. These are people that are literally like the only parents that I have in the world because I don't have, you know, my biological parents. So it's more of a brotherly dispute than it is a scorned ex, you know, right. Because, hey, yeah, I'm blessed, man. I'm thankful for everything that I have, and you know, I've moved on with my life as well. And you know, anyone that's followed my journey knows, you know, hey, you know, still highly connected in the sport, still doing great things. But I want to see my parents, you know, painted in a much better light than what they've been painted in, and they should never have to experience that because I know for a fact, you know, that they sacrificed, you know, day in and day out, you know, for that girl and her family. I know. So, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, that the record is set straight. And then the articles that are being published and the things that you're saying, you're doing it based in my hometown. You know, I've come from those streets. I've come from those areas where, you know, those kids have no opportunities, and I had to fight for everything that I have. And you turn around and tell the world that, yeah, I went through all of this stuff when you really didn't. So it's almost like you're trying to emulate my life. And then at the end of the day, you know, you got a guy who has a reputation around the Tampa area for, you know, bad business practices. He has so many lawsuits up the ante that's ridiculous. There's people who have gone on record and have filed several lawsuits against that man for bad business practices and violating and stealing and doing all types of things. And you're doing it in my city. That's my hometown. So I've, you know, been a coach in the industry now for almost a decade, and I pride myself on going back to the Tampa inner city neighborhoods and getting those kids out to college because that's what I believe, you know, I'm called to do. And so to see you running around the city, you know, garnering all of this, you know, attention falsely, you know, and having people to buy into a story that is not true. And on top of that, to have a husband, you know, that's just basically milking you for everything, you know, that you have right now and using you as a brand to continue his bad business practices. You know, I want to protect the people in my community. And so that's what I'm speaking out about, because when it goes in print, it's out there before the world to see. And if they don't know the true story behind it, then they're going to just take it and run with it. So let's set the record straight, world. I have nothing against Tiana Bartoletta. I am all for I'm all for a successful, thriving African-American woman. But I'm also, before anything, a man of valor and integrity, and I'm going to set the record straight. And that's just what it is. So, you know, I just had to speak out on it because I know for a fact that her parents have never violated her, okay? When Tiana moved to Florida, okay, and I want to just go ahead and speak this because it's fact, and I think you should know this. You know, Tiana Madison Bartoletta, Tiana, okay, you know, having been so supported by her family, being in a favorable position, having the opportunity to go on to the University of Tennessee and do all of the great things that she did, okay, Tiana decided to become a professional track athlete. And, you know, it was against her parents', you know, wishes for her to leave school and do that. But even though that she went on and did that, you know, they continued to support her. All right. And the issue, you know, and what brings us to today, and I believe this conversation and the post that I made, Tiana at that point in time, okay, when she had her first contract, she moved out to California, and I believe she was training with Bob Kersey. All right. And Tiana was back. I believe about a year later, you know, she'd gone out and you know, just kind of blowing through her money and was doing a lot of, living beyond her means. And so she found herself, you know, in a vulnerable situation. And at that point in time, her parents, you know, kind of bridged the gap, and they stepped in and financially, you know, began to fund her. And you know, they just did what they thought, you know, honorable parents should do to support their child. Tiana got another chance in the sport and you know, moved to Florida. And when she moved to Florida, she was living actually, and I know this because I spoke, you know, with the family, and I spoke with her sister. You know, she was actually living with Christina. She was living with the younger sister, you know, who's actually doing quite well in Florida. She actually has her own store in Florida, doing great things. But she was living with her sister, due to, you know, kind of some financial setbacks and kind of struggling in the sport a little bit, you know, and she continued to, you know, blow her money. I mean, you know, from what I've been told, you know, from close sources, she would go out, man. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but there's something before I forget it. They kind of I kind of wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
A lot of people that hear this, they may not find the article. They may not ever read the article. As far as what was said, that's painted her parents in a negative light. What was said in that article that was painted? Yeah.
So Tiana, you know, after she eloped with John Bartoletta, they eloped and they were married, kind of just, you know, on short notice, okay, which kind of, you know, is a red flag in itself. But, you know, he had pushed, you know, and I spoke to parents on this one because I have a strong relationship with the parents. You know, they received a order to not contact. You know, they had a restraining order against their own daughter. Okay, I don't know if he. Whoa. Yeah. This is the thing. Yeah, right before London. Let me go there. Okay, right before London. Okay, was the time period. Those were the few years, you know, that the parents stepped in and said, hey, Tiana, you need to get your act together. You know, with this spending, we're not going to continue to fund you. And that's when Tiana kind of went searching on the internet, you know, to find some well-to-do guys financially to kind of, you know, go. Yeah.
So how do you know that's what she did that at that time period? Like the whole parent thing, I could see knowing that. But
right.
I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to get all the potholes in. So when people
okay, that's fine.
She went on the internet to find like a wealthy benefactor.
All right. Well, John Bartoletta. Okay, for one, you know, the younger sister confirmed, Christina Madison. And then, you know, she relayed the information to her parents and said, hey, you know, just want to let you know that Tiana is meeting men, you know, off the internet. And then she was, you know, Christina would find the logins, you know, on the computer and stuff like that. And, you know, she would, you know, tell her she's going out to meet these different guys. And with that being, you know, the case, you know, parents were concerned. I'd spoken with them on different occasions. You know, I'm from the Florida area, that Tampa, Orlando area. So they say, you know, kind of keep an eye out, you know, and kind of ask some questions about it, you know, and at the end of the day, John Bartoletta has had several internet dating sites, and there's hundreds of women who have posted negative feedback on his sites and saying that they've met him or talked to him, and he came off as a, you know, controlling guy with a mental illness and flaunting his money around, and so when you put those things together, that she's meeting guys on the internet and you see that he has, you know, this going on. I mean, hey, man, it becomes something that becomes clear as day. You know, they didn't meet in a restaurant in Orlando when she was wearing her medals. You know, I just don't believe that. I won't buy that.
Are you still in contact with Tiana?
I haven't spoken with Tiana lately. You know, no, I haven't. Neither has any of her family or her closest friends, you know, from Tennessee. He has totally alienated her from even her sister, who was her best friend, and I can attest to that. He's alienated her from her sister, her parents, and, you know, so with that being said, man, he has total control over her athletic career, and he happens to be an investment manager. So, you know, you take a young girl at that time, mid-20s,
you know, like a white-collar pimp.
It's like a white-collar pimp, man, and let's keep it real, you know. You basically have it looks like to me, you know, when I look at things, You know, and I could be wrong. There's a slight, slim possibility that I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet KD's new contract money will go to State on this. Okay? There is no way in HE double hockey sticks that this is not some sort of sick, twisted, and demented business arrangement. Because, hey, you know, it just doesn't happen like that, you know, and you know, if it does, you know, I've never seen it. But, you know, this man is the same age as her father. He has, you know, pushed her to not contact her family.
So does she still have a restraining order on her parents?
You know, the last that I heard about the restraining order, it was right before London. The parents were making, you know, provisions to go over to London to support their daughter, which they have supported her whole entire life. And he got, you know, some type of order set in motion. And they were in London cheering for Tiana, their child, and they could not touch or talk to her or come within 100 feet. In London, the Olympic Games, the pinnacle of her track and field endeavors. And your parents cannot even come and give you a hug to celebrate your biggest moment with you. And I found that to be downright 100% absolutely ridiculous.
Wow.
And you know, those are like my parents again. So I heard when they heard. I actually traveled from my job. I took time off to travel to Elyria, Ohio, and I would repeat the address online, but I don't want people randomly showing up to their home. But I traveled.
Don't do that.
I traveled to their home, and I slept on the couch, and I was there after the London Games, after they were just totally crushed and going through this time period with her. And I was the one there, and I talked to mom and dad and gave hugs and spent the time, man, to say thank you on her behalf. And the city of Elyria actually, you know, wanted to declare Tiana Bartoletta Day, and she didn't even show up. How do you stand up your hometown who wants to celebrate you and give you an Olympian Day? You know, they put it all in the newspaper. You know, they invited everyone in the city of Elyria out, everyone that watched her grow up and watched her parents raise her, and have an Olympian Day, and you don't show up. But yet on the very day that you're supposed to have a celebration in Elyria, you have an Olympian Day in Tampa, my hometown, and they celebrate you as a Tampa native. Are you serious?
Wow. So this is just like, this switch just came instantly when she was, had any of this part of her personality kind of showed prior to meeting him? Or is it just like she met him and the girl changed?
You know what? You know, Tiana, she was a sound individual, very smart, an honor student in high school, could have gone to Johns Hopkins Medical School. I mean, this girl was very intelligent, but for all intents and purposes, if you ask anyone in the track and field world who's known her throughout her career, known her in the early phases, say that, you know, she's alienated now from everyone, and she's almost, you know, walking around brainwashed, in a sense, or, you know, is totally not the same. And I'm not sure, you know, what that's all, you know, attributed to, but I know it doesn't smell right, because.
So here,
yeah.
I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, right?
Okay.
So is it possible? Like, obviously what I'm about to say, I don't believe a word of it, but I have to play devil's advocate on this one and just play, you know, I got to try to be impartial. Is it possible that, like you said, she could have went, you know, to medical school, very intelligent young lady. She's rose to, you know, the height of her sport. Is it possible that this is all her doing? Is it possible that this is what she, like, is it any possibility that something that within that family that you may not know about, as far as her interaction with her parents, or this is her, like, you think this man's manipulating her? Maybe she damned him. You know, maybe she took everything from him. Maybe she's already didn't like, you know, the track community. Maybe she didn't like, you know, her parents. Maybe she wanted to isolate herself. And, you know, now with this man's resources or whatever, she's finally been able to put herself in that spot and do it on her own, and that's what she wanted.
You know what? You know, I'm an open-minded guy, you know, and I think outside of the box as well. I think any way you cut this cookie, any way it crumbles, it don't smell right. Whether she was behind the manipulation of this, and I highly doubt that at this point, but I will leave room, for it, a possibility. But, either way, don't get the kids involved. Don't put out articles in Tampa and you have a not-for-profit organization. She has a not-for-profit organization in Tampa, and basically the merits that this is based upon is her struggle and her journey from tragedy to triumph. But you ain't had no tragedy. You had a few setbacks, but you ain't had no tragedy. You wasn't out there ducking bullets from the window. You wasn't out there in the heat of the fire. I grew up in those streets. I grew up in the dirty mud of Tampa, man. And you got the kids out there believing that, hey, I came from this tragedy to triumph story and you can do it too. But, there's no meat in that story. You selling them a beef patty with no beef in it. And so with that being said, whether you decided to create a story and to sell a story for monetary gain, for likes on Facebook or likes on your website or whatever the case might be, if you're out there doing that, it's not honorable. And it furthermore proves my point, okay, that something is not right about it. And, when you go out there and you put that type of stuff out there into the the atmosphere, I mean, someone needs to address it, and I really feel, that when I read those articles and being from the city of Tampa, I wanted to step up and say, hey, this is what the truth is. And since those parents, Coach Bob Madison and Miss Joanne Madison has had to deal with, not being able to celebrate their daughter, not be able to even have contact with her for the last 6-7 years. Okay, these are the 2 years that you actually did make it to the Olympics. When you didn't make it to the Olympics, the parents were your strongest support system. They were the ones that were there. They were going through the ugly periods of your life with you. And then you finally get to a point where, hey, okay, mom and dad doesn't want to hold my hand and give me money when I blow it, so I'm going to go out there and find someone that does exactly what I want them to do. And then when you do get to the point where you're in a favorable position, you don't even give back to your parents. So would you really hold a grudge because they tried to teach you a life lesson? Would you really hold such a grudge that you would just totally annihilate the credibility and the reputation of your own parents? That's so selfish. And with that being said, I love those Madisons. And Tiana will always be a Madison in my opinion because, hey, she may be married, okay, and this may make me seem like a bitter ex per se, but I choose to remember the Tiana Madison that I met as a high school athlete at Elyria, Ohio, the athlete that went on to do things that only Jesse Owens did, the one that was intelligent and an honest student at Elyria High School who went and ran for Carol Smith Gilbert and did great things at the University of Tennessee. That's the person that I choose to remember, not this person who has grown to become a complete alienated individual from all those who have truly loved and supported her.
All right. Let's see if we can find something good. This not-for-profit, is it for kids?
It's for youth, I believe. I believe it's for youth girls. I can't remember the ages. I haven't, harbored over the website or anything like that, but I just remember seeing it or getting it, shared to me by someone in Tampa to ask me about it. Cause, when it comes to track and field in the city of Tampa, I would like to kind of designate myself as being one of the guys in the area that, those inner city moms, they'll call and say, hey, Coach E, do you know this person in track and field? Do you know this coach? When those athletes are getting to the point where they're graduating, and I have a few younger cousins that are some of the top in the city of Tampa right now. One is signed with the University of Miami. When it comes to that, they're going to ask me questions. And I was asked about the agency, the organization that she had. And, I'm emotional, right?
Okay,
go ahead.
Let me put you in a hard spot right now.
Okay.
A hard question. This is a hypothetical. Let's say right now, there's somebody behind pulling all the strings, manipulating her, has control over her, doing, who knows what to her head, brainwashing this young lady. Now, would you rather her be in that situation, dealing with that, isolating her parents, demonizing her parents, basically, if her not-for-profit and these lies about her background motivates and inspires those kids, and it brings money into that program, and then out of that program, you get another Tiana Madison out of that program? Or would you rather the Tiana that you remember? If you had to, if you only could have that not-for-profit that creates another kid like her, or you get the old Tiana, which one? If you had to have just one?
I'm just a big fan of just being organic. Just be you, and if Tiana is purposely misleading people, I can't go for that. I can't support anything like that.
Okay.
Because
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fair, man, because who are you creating? Do we really want to create a lie? You have to continue to lie, and you're leading young people into a direction to start to believe things that aren't true. And so these are the children that have to go home and sleep in the project housings of Tampa. These are the kids that don't have access to the things that you've always had access to. Her father has worked the same factory job for over 20 years. Her mother has been the vice president of a very prominent bank in Ohio for almost, 20 years. I mean, you always had, you had a gym. You had a freaking LA Fitness at your house. I went to it when I was in high school. I was outside, pumping bricks around the neighborhood, and her dad invited me over to come use the gym in her house. You had LA Fitness in your crib when you were your whole life. Just stop doing that, man. These kids don't have the LA Fitness at the house. These kids don't have access to the, you had everything. You had camps. Her father actually, had the opportunity to fight with Chuck Norris. He was a 5-star black belt MMA, before MMA was big. You had a professional athlete in your home, and you had access to so many things that the younger generation of kids that you're actually, you're selling your organization to, they don't have these things. So you put something up on the internet. It's like Craigslist, man. It's false advertisement, and these kids sign up for it. And what can you give them other than some basic drills and fundamentals? I'm a coach that I pride myself off of being the coach of the underdogs, and that's me. And you can
on that, I'm 1,000% with you. That's what I love to hear you say that, man, because there's not enough, guys like that. All of these guys, man, and I'm gonna say it. I don't give two shits. 90% of the coaches right now, they're not coaches; they're recruiters.
Exactly.
You give me
yeah. Oh yeah, there's plenty of them.
Yeah, there's plenty of recruiters. So I'm definitely.
Tell the world this, Doc. This is what I want the world to know. I took my losses like a man. I didn't go and find a sugar mama, to fund me. I lived in the city of Atlanta after Jackson State, and my mother passed away at a time during college, man, where I was a 148 guy, and I was still in the highlight of my career at 22 years old. And I went to work right away. I left Jackson State, and I went and worked 3 jobs. I worked Walmart. I worked McDonald's. Man, I did whatever I had to do. And I moved to the city of Atlanta. And when I first moved there, I lived in a homeless shelter. I worked my way up from the homeless shelter to a boarding room and volunteering, coaching kids in the heart of the city for free. I did free coaching camps and clinics. And I continued to work and volunteer coach to get into this industry. Everything that I earned up until including my first head coaching job, at a historically black college, I worked hard for blood, sweat, and tears. And a lot of those coaches, and I won't name them, but there are several very well-known coaches that have called my Metro phone. Yes, it was Metro. I had a Metro phone. They called me and said, hey, Coach E, I know you're working with this kid in Atlanta. Let me tell you what I would do, man. You know, I apply to be a substitute teacher, you know, and I apply to be a substitute teacher, you know, coming off of some setbacks, man. And I went around to every school and introduced myself to those athletes. And I would save my money, and I would get on a Greyhound bus, and I would catch a Greyhound in Houston, catch a Greyhound in New Orleans, and I would save up enough money to stay for a week, and I would go coach kids for free in the neighborhood just to build my brand. I did it word of mouth by traveling directly to these cities. And, you know, as time went by, man, over the course of a few years, some of these kids turned out to be some of the best in the country. And a lot of colleges would call my cell phone and say, hey, I know you know this kid. I know you know that kid, you know. And I became, for all intents and purposes, a non-paid recruiter for a lot of major institutions. There's kids right now at some of the biggest schools in the SEC that I worked with when I was a substitute teacher in Atlanta. And so, you know, I don't do this for fame or fortune, man. I don't do this for that popularity. I do it because I love it. I do it because this is something that gave me a chance when I was out there, could have turned into a kid that ended up in prison or dead. And that's why I do it. So, you know, when you got, and anybody wants to know who Coach Eric Spears is or Coach E, I tell you this, you know, 800-meter guy, and I'm going to bring up someone right now that's been one of the hottest 800-meter runners lately. Donovan Brazier is like my little brother. You know, I want you, and I'm going to go on record and say this, you know, he just had a bad Olympic trial run, but that kid will be the future of the 800 meters, and in my opinion. But, you know, that kid, you know, that's the classic case. You get a kid like that, you know, I met him, you know, during the NCAA indoors when he had a bat race indoors. Everybody fell off the bandwagon, and he came back and he set the collegiate record during the outdoor season. That kid Snapchatted me and continued to hit me up because I'm going to tell you who Coach E is. I'm the type of guy that when the kid is down, when the athlete isn't, you know, running the world-class times, you know, I'm going to go through the ins and outs with those kids. So, and I'm known for taking a kid that is not running, you know, extremely fast and turning them into something. So I do this for the struggle and, you know, those struggling in the sport, those that are looking for an opportunity. So for someone to use that podium and to sell, you know, some BS, you know, it needs to be corrected, you know, especially when you're doing it in my hometown. You know, what do you really have to offer, you know, these kids? But, hey, you know, I wish her well. I wish him well.
That's huge, man. Like, that is, it's amazing. You'd be surprised how much your story parallels my own, man. Like what I'm doing out here in Vegas and what I've been doing out here. You'd be surprised. that's
right.
And right now, anybody listening to this, I'm going to say this right now. You know, a lot of times when I do this show, I kind of, you know, it's all about my guests and about whatever I'm trying to educate people on. But you touched on some things that I think that nobody has the balls or even brains to even realize. But athletes, if you're going into a college or if you're going post-collegiate, you need to do your research on these coaches. You need to know because this sport is not easy. There's nothing easy about this. I've coached guys who've broken world records, broke national records, and did not get contracts, that were not making money. Guys getting evicted, riding the bus to practice, had no food. So if you're going into this sport, you're listening to a coach call you on the phone or an agent call you on the phone, and they're promising you this. If you go here and they're going to do this and this and this for you, that doesn't mean anything. Because I don't mind. I'll say names. Where's Jennifer? Where's Jennifer Tarma right now?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like she
got
a call from somebody saying, come out here, I'm going to do this, 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 and this for you. But then something happened at a meet, and all of a sudden it's every man for themselves. So before anything else, I'm not the only guy in this country that can coach an athlete to run fast. You're not the only guy in this country that can coach somebody to run fast. However, you want to be sure you're putting your dreams in the hands of somebody that is with it. And a good friend of mine, I'm not going to say who it was, that told me this, and I've been quoting the shit out of this for the last month ever since this dude told me. And he told me there's two different kind of coaches, man. He said, and neither one of them are bad. I'm not knocking one time or saying one's better than the other, but there's two different kind of coaches. You have one coach who, you know, you train your racehorse, you train them good, you get a racehorse to workouts, You're there, and you show up every day to the training. You make sure the horse is healthy. You make sure the horse is fast. And when it's time to run, you let him on the track, and you let him go race, and, you know, you see what the horse does. And you have another kind of coach that's a jockey. That's the coach that does the training, and they ride that horse. Whether that horse wins or loses, that coach is on the back of that horse as a jockey. Win, lose, or draw, they're there with him. And, I mean, to me, you sound like a jockey. And I love jockeys. I'm a jockey. And it's like kids out there, these young athletes that want to be pros, that want to pursue dreams.
Right.
If you have that kind of passion in this sport, you want to make sure that your coach's passion aligns with that. You want somebody that's going to hop on that Greyhound bus. And, I've had dudes, I'll tell you what, I've had dudes sleep in the trunk of the car, rental car, a little bitty piece of shit, two-seater. We had to put the back seats down. They slept so their feet can go into the trunk. They're halfway in the back seat, halfway in the trunk. Slept in the car, 8-hour drive from Vegas to the meet. Get to the meet, have to sleep a little bit at the meet, wake up, run world-leading time because they were that hungry. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, we've had success then. We don't got to do that anymore. But
right.
That's what this sport is. And the bad part is, man, for every guy like you, for every guy like me that loves this, that lives this, eats this, sleeps this, and shits this sport, you have 37 dudes that are exploiting that same love that athletes have for it.
Right.
So, yeah, man.
And I want to set the record straight about that. You know, yeah, I am a jockey because I live this every day. I've lived it to the point where I've had nothing, you know, for pouring into my athletes. I've had to resign a collegiate job for standing up for my athlete scholarships and the integrity of, you know, my athletes and my program. You know, I've gone through that. I've gone through taking the last that I have to make sure that a kid has track spikes and have what they need. You know, that's just me. And you got people in the industry, you know, with the good old boy system, and they're gonna, you know, get together and assemble together and dog out the real jockeys. You got I call them the flockies, because they only flock to the athletes that are, you know, that are high level athletes. So all those flocky coaches out there, you know, assembling against the real jockeys, man, and especially young brothers, you know, minority coaches in the sport, you know, man, that's what they do. And instead of uplifting, you know, those young, hungry, passionate coaches, they try to dig up dirt from your past and make you, you know, paint you out to be an incompetent person or someone that doesn't have a handle on your emotions. Well, I'm going to tell you like this. I started off at a little old park in Tampa, Florida with nothing. I didn't have anything. I barely had shoes to run in, shoes with holes in them. And I started off, and I watched 98% of my friends either become dead or in prison. I watched my family situation just totally disintegrate right before my eyes before I was even, you know, a teenager. And with that being said, I made a decision back then that if running is all I had to get to the next level, I was going to do it. I ran into school 3 miles a day with a backpack on. I wasn't zoned to the school that I went to try to give myself a better chance. And I tell you this, every level that I've been on, people said that I couldn't. You know, from Florida, you know, going to becoming a state runner-up and Jackson State and doing the things in the collegiate level, I didn't run against other HBCUs. I ran against the Tennessees of the world, Tyson Invitationals, and all the big-time meets. You know, I stepped in there and represented my HBCU at the highest levels, you know, and we're not going to get on those flockies, you know, that they're building their resume on the merits of the real coaches that are really coaching. You know, they may be head coaches and coaches that they're getting the credit at the end of the day, but you got a coach that's really doing the recruiting, really doing the training. You know, it just happened to know the right person. With that being said, man, you know, hey, I've had to earn it the hard way, you know, and I've made, you know, we all make mistakes. No one's perfect, you know, so one day, you know, I pray that, you know, Tiana or anyone else in this industry that's falsifying information and they're not clean, and we won't talk about those that's not clean in the sport, you know, because you could air that out. but at the right. Yeah, somebody asked, I'm not gonna mention no names, but I ran track at Jackson State with a very high profile Olympic level athlete. We ain't gonna go there. He don't talk to me though. He don't know me. He don't know me, but hey, bro, we ran the conference championship team together. We was co-captains, baby. You don't know me anymore though. Training with Coach Woodson down there. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about D2 Woodson in that camp, 'cause we know Mike Rogers already tested positive with steroids. Or you take anybody in that camp with Coach Woodson, I'm throwing a shot there. I do it on record. I never threw a shot on the internet to Coach D2 Woodson. But that whole situation with Michael Tinsley, Bianca Knight, and anybody in that Mike Rogers camp, Trell Kimmons, that's my boy. But let me tell you this. I've been around the game too, and I know what they doing out there in Round Rock, Texas. So everybody that's not clean in the sport, you better clean it up. 'Cause I'm from the projects. I'm that coach back when Track Shark was out way back in the day. The name was 800-meter running from the projects. When I was running from the projects on asphalt, going to running state meets and meet the champions from the projects, I'm doing it in the coaching industry. If you're not right, your ethics aren't right, you out there doping up these athletes, and I find out about it, I'm putting you on blast. You better stop doing it. You better clean it up.
Hey, you ain't saying nothing but a word, man. Like, you're talking about, like, I'm gonna say two things. I'm gonna talk about two things. The first one earlier, you were saying how they try to dig up dirt on the younger guys, try to make it seem like, you're not stable. Oh, that's their favorite thing to do with me. They love to call me a hothead because, I done been at meets where I flipped over tables in time and tent. Because I had an athlete, this is back before the 12 trials, who got hit in the knee with a discus at a track meet where all my athletes, when they come to Vegas, it's almost mandatory that they work with Las Vegas' youth in track and field. Like, at some point, you're going to do some volunteer coaching. You're going to work with some kids. I don't give a shit. You're going to give back. So we're at a track meet.
Part of the grind. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're at a track meet, and a damn discus comes over the top of the high school building, comes down, and it hits my guy right in the knee. Phil Redrick was his name. Phil Redrick, he ran the SWAC. And,
okay.
So the discus hits him in the knee. I get all the medical reports. I get all the proof, from the paramedics, everything. I get all the, he got hit in the knee, coming up to the Olympic trial. He'd run, I think he ran at the time, he was just off of a qualifier. So I petitioned to Duffy, I petitioned to USATF about, like, this is the situation. The kids run damn close. We had a meet coming up this next week in San Diego. He's not going to be healthy in time to drop the time for trials. Can I get him a lane? So blah, blah, blah. We get to a meet, and they messed up the FAT. Meet this kid paid for. It's not cheap for us to get to meet. You know the cost of all of that. So,
right.
And they messed up the clock. And I go over there. I'm trying to talk to the guy. I'm respectful. I'm level-headed, and they just kind of blew it off as though, hey, tough luck. It happened. So, I went to Northtown. Like, I went North Las Vegas on him, and I flipped the table, and I'm always doing that. But talking about D2 now, on the other level, on D2, this dude, so this year, Indoor World Championships, he was the USATF coach. He was the relay guy.
Okay.
So,
I'm ready to set the record straight on D2. You put it on out there. We're going to bring it back to Jackson, Mississippi, because I was there when my head coach at Jackson State brought D2 in as a volunteer assistant. Yeah, we can get into that one. I know about that guy.
So he's the coach. So I'm down there. I have two quarter horses down there. Troy Pollard, and I had Elvion Bailey.
I know Troy.
Yeah, so I was training Elvion Bailey from Western Kentucky. And, Troy Pollard. So we get down there. Troy, he would have had the second fastest time going into the finals, but he got DQ'd. He stepped on the line. Tough. They can't do nothing about that. The kid stepped on. He won his heat. He had the second fastest time behind Vernon. And so he got DQ'd. I still had Elvion. Elvion was going in with like the number 4th or 5th fastest time going into the finals at U.S. Championships. He ends up taking the bronze medal. So we're going through the whole process of you know how they go through the whole bullshit. They got to drug test them, and they got to give them the whole spiel of Team USA, pick out your gear, getting the kids with the wide eyes. This man, and this is the first time I had ever spoken with D2. I talked to him in passing at, like, Mount Sac Relays a year or two before that, but I don't really know him because I'm a West Coast dude. Like, I'm born and raised in Vegas. Shout out to my boy Obi Moore. That's my boy on the West Coast. Hey, speaking of which, Obi ass was supposed to be on the show with me. And at the last minute, he was like, "Man, I just can't do it." And I was like, that's you, brother.
He's a laid-back guy. That's my boy. And shout out to Coach Johnny Gray. Those are my two West Coast connections.
Johnny Gray, Coach Nick Hartle from Vegas, just ran through trials. But so anyway, he pulls me aside. This is D2 I'm talking about. He pulls me aside. And he's like, hey, Coach, I know in the past there's been a whole lot of politics with these other guys. I'm not them. I'm here to make sure there's no BS. The fastest guys are going to run. Look me right in my face with one of them eyes. You know what I mean? So,
not the lazy eye.
right in my face. And said this to me, man. And he's like, ain't going to be no BS. The fastest guys are going to run. So, like I told you, my guy Elvion took third. All right? Now, he asked me, he's like, because you know your athlete better than I know. I'm asking the coaches about their athlete and to see where I should put them on this world championship indoor relay team. So I told him, I said, Elvion's smaller than the rest of those guys, but as far as raw foot speed goes, he has a better 200-meter PB. And the way I train my guys, I train my quarter horses speed first. So I'm thinking, I tell him, I think he's, good first leg. He'd be probably the best guy to lead off. He'll put us in front, and he's a faster guy. He's like, cool. That's the same thing I was thinking. So, first round, let's run first leg. Come to motherfucking finals, he puts Patrick Geisling, or Freeney, one of them Notre Dame dudes, who my guy basically worked this dude all year long, worked him at the championship meet, blase, blah, whatever. He takes him off the team, breaks this kid's heart. Because he didn't get to run in the final. He still gets the medal, he still gets the money, but he didn't get to run in the final and earn his medal, which ended up costing that team a world record. However, so after that, he's the kid's best friend in the world, smiling in his face and trying to explain to him this, that, and the third. So for you to tell me that stuff about him, I'm not shocked at all. Because from that moment, I realized that his whole character was suspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me give you the juice, man. I gotta give you the juice, man, because see, these were two topics that have been highly overdue for me to discuss. Cause I'm one of those guys, man, where I'm just gonna put on the boots and keep on grinding, man. But I would tell you a little something about D2, and I want the world to know this. All right, if you can't look at a person straight, which clearly he can't, but we won't blame that totally on him because, sometimes genetics do that to you. Yeah. Right. But let me say this. If you stutter when you talk, okay, and you don't got a speech impediment, okay, it's a problem. It's suspect. But I'm going to tell you what I do know about D2. I was a junior at Jackson State University, the Jackson State University, #1 school in the SWAC conference, home of Walter Payton. But let me say this here, okay? D2 was invited in to join our program on the merits that he had a young sprinter by the name of Nate Yorks, who was a pretty good sprinter out of Colorado at that time, and he was training him, okay? And my coach at the time, Dr. Edmund Donald, received contact from D2, that stated that he had a sprinter for the program. At that time, you had myself, Michael Tinsley, and a few other pretty elite athletes collegiately, and we were looking for another sprinter to kind of take our program to that national level. And at the time, Nate Yorks was a good kid. D2 was his coach in Colorado. Now, upon doing a little bit more research, the reason why D2 was so adamant about bringing Nate Yorks to Jackson State, a kid who was running some pretty good times, and you can talk to Jeremy Dotson about this because he's from Colorado, and he can verify this. Nate Yorks had tested positive for some performance enhancement drugs in high school. And who was his coach in high school? D2. Who got ran out of Colorado for tampering with high school athletes and PEDs? D2. And we didn't know the background until after he came to Jackson State. He was a non-paid coach. Why? Because in order to be a coach at the collegiate level, you must have a bachelor's degree. So he would tell you these illustrious stories of his career about how he's done all of these exceptional things, but the man does not have a college degree, and he did not finish college. Everything he tells you is a lie, okay? And he came to Jackson State. He came to Jackson State as a volunteer assistant. My coach put this man in an apartment, all right, for his service to our program. He put him in an apartment paid the rent on the apartment, allowed this man to go into the cafeteria and have meals, and every time you would see D2, he was always in the athlete's face behind coach's back. He talked to every athlete except me. I wouldn't talk to him. I was loyal to my coach. And he would always go around and talk to Mike, you know, you need to train with me, and he talked to everybody on the team. And he was that kind of guy. And during that time, Bianca Knight, and this is verifiable, you can look this up. She was a high school sprinter at Ridgeland High School right outside of Jackson, Mississippi. And our coach allowed her to train at our track at Jackson State. During that time, my coach also worked with Bianca and helped her mom with different things. Her mom was a single mother going through some things. And D2 saw a gold mine in her as well. So during the time period that he was assisting with the program, you know, he basically undercut my coach with Bianca. He undercut my coach with Michael Tinsley. And Mike had a great relationship with Mike Rogers, who was at that time at Lindenwood, the NAIA program, and we would see those guys at University of Arkansas. So basically D2 made his move on Mike and Bianca because he knew that they were going to be the rock stars of the track and field world, you know, from that region in that time period.
Right.
And he laced up a lot of lies and a lot of bullshit, man. And he always would have something negative to say about my coach. And finally, you know, my coach, you know, he had to let him go. And D2, and I want you to know the history of this, because whenever you have conversation like this, you need to have some literature on it. Here's my reference for everyone in the track world that's going to say, oh, Coach E is just talking some shit. Let me tell you like this, okay? Michael Tinsley didn't graduate from Jackson State. Bianca Knight didn't graduate from the University of Texas. Mike Rogers did not graduate from college. Everybody in this man's group didn't graduate from college, just like he didn't graduate. And he convinced these kids to move out to Texas, leave school. He convinced Mike to leave Jackson State. He convinced Bianca Knight to leave the University of Texas. He convinced Mike Rogers to leave. And all of these kids went with this guy, okay, did not graduate. But they ran fast for 1 or 2 years. Yeah, they had a big payoff. You know, Mike is still doing, you know, his thing. But out of that entire group, no one has a college degree. And out of that entire group, there's a few of them that have tested positive for PED. Let's do the history on that, starting back with Nate Yorks in Colorado in high school and all the divisive things he did at Jackson State to recruit these athletes. So, of course, once you get 1 or 2 big names like Michael Tinsley and Bianca Knight, then you'll get a Natasha Hastings, by the way, who just qualified for the 400, you know, in the Olympic Games. But, you know, those athletes came what? After you had Michael Tinsley, after you had Bianca Knight. So you rode the wave of these athletes. You hang around people like Dennis Mitchell at these big meets trying to be a sponge and soak up whatever you can, and that's fine because great coaches learn from other coaches. But just to try to be in the mix and you know, to be relevant when really you're not relevant. There's a lot of people fooled in the world, you know, about this guy as well. And I know I'm going to sound like, you know, the Grinch who stole the track and field Christmas tonight, but at the end of the day, I know this guy just like I know Tiana. And if you happen to interview me about some other guys that I know who are great guys, then you get a total different interview. But I just saw D2 at, yeah.
No, this ain't gonna be the last time we talk, bro. I mean, we gonna talk, man. Cause don't trip. We gonna talk, man. Don't trip. It's gonna be some more. But yeah, go ahead. I'm my bad for cutting y'all. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say, man, I just saw the brother at the American Track League meet here in Atlanta. I was working that meet, and I saw him. He couldn't look me in my eyes. I even stood still to see if he can get focused enough to see me. He didn't look me in my eyes. So if you want the real, I'm gonna give you the real. And anybody in the track world or listening to this podcast that you have an opinion about me, then you need to do what you've been doing. You can continue to have your own opinion, but I'm going to continue to do me, and I'm going to speak the truth. And so you can't, you know, I'm a hip-hop guy. I like hip-hop, man. I love various genres of music, but Young Jeezy said this. He said, you cannot assassinate my character because I ain't acting. And I'm in the A-Town right now, and I'm still real. I'm Coach E. So I said it first here on the podcast, and this is what it is.
All right. So, Coach, man, I want to kind of try to plug for you here, and, you know, do my part, and, you know, thank you for being on the show. Right now, man, You have a camp going. You recruit. You looking for new athletes. Who you coach? What levels? What distance do you like to touch, man?
Well, I just finished 1 year. Those who know me, they know. I did 3 years at Morehouse as an assistant coach, middle distance guy. I recruit for Morehouse still, because the house is the house, and Coach Willie Hill is my mentor. But I spent 1 year at Talladega College as the head coach, small historically black college, NAIA. 1 year, went from 2 athletes to 17, had the first ever individual conference champions in school history, scored the most points in school history. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, the program was cut after 1 year, but we did some really great things. So I'm actually a free agent in the collegiate coaching ranks. Come with a great resume and hard work more than anything else. Not just on paper, get it done on the track. So, but I am recruiting for several institutions, lots of great relationships around the country. Hey man, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, eSpear8K, and again, that's eSpear8K. Check me out, man.
Spear spelled S-P-E-E-R though, right?
Yep, and Google, if you don't know, man, Google the story, Eric Spear Takes the Long Road, man. This is documented. I actually have a Sports-Centered feature story coming up with Jay Crawford of ESPN, who's a native of Sandusky, Ohio. And that's actually the school that I ran for when I met Tiana, Sandusky High School. I have the school record there. And Jay Crawford, man, I just, met with Jay Crawford. We're going to have a Sports-Centered feature. And it's based upon that story that's on Google. Eric Spear Takes the Long Road. So I want y'all to Google that and check me out, man. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And man, just show me some love, man. I know it's so much going on in the world today. I just want to be around some great people in my circle. If you're an athlete looking for an opportunity, whether it be through the internet or, I'm a mobile coach, if I'm in your city or your town, free workout on me, man. I'm still not charging for track workouts. World-class workouts, for those kids, man, that is looking for an opportunity. So,
there you go.
Until I'm hired again, I'm just out here grinding. I'm actually doing this podcast, getting ready to work overnight security here in Atlanta. So, hey, I'm not one of the Kardashians, man. I get it how I live.
Hey, I hear you, bro. I hear that, man. I love that. So, yeah. On that note, man, I think we established a lot, but this is definitely for y'all. I know I enjoyed talking with you, man, and I think people are gonna love this. This ain't gonna be the last time we do this, man, and I feel like we're gonna work together because I volunteer in Vegas with kids. I know I coach pros, but I volunteer in Vegas at a high school here, so I'm always I got a lot of kids.
Hey, you doing big things, man, and I got one more plug for the world, man. I just did the official Olympic trial qualifier freestyle, man. Those that know me, they know that, I'm also a world-class poet, not just a world-class coach, but a world-class poet, man, spoken word artist. And I just actually laced up a brand new flow and highlighted guys like Trayvon Bromell, who's retweeted on Twitter. Marvin Bracey, Jay Gatt is actually tagged in that. He's mentioned in there. So all of your Olympic trial qualifiers from the first half of the Olympics, man, were mentioned in this spoken word piece. So if you go to my Instagram or my Twitter, check out that video clip, man, and repost that. So it's actually like the #1 video right now, for the track world. And if I get enough follows and enough mentions and requests, I'm gonna go into the studio and do official Rio 16 anthem. And if you want to verify those music skills, you can talk to D.D. Trotter. Shout out to D. Trot. Shout out to Sonya Richards, the legends who are just, retiring. But yeah, D. Trot, man, her brother is a big artist here in Atlanta. And right now, man, we talk about going into the studio and making a Rio 16 anthem for track and field. And it's going to be a banger. So, hey, y'all stay tuned.
That sounds nice, man. Yeah. Hey. Word, man. I'm going to definitely lock your contact in. I got a feeling, man. Because, like I said, like the youth of the track and field, you see them young guys on the team. Same thing with coaches. Me and you about the same age, so the coaches getting younger, the athletes getting younger. There's a new regime coming in, man. So we can't change.
Yeah, it is.
We can't stop these police from shooting motherfuckers. They ain't got no business shooting, but we can show change this track.
Hey, can I? Speaking of the police brutality, man, I got a piece I want to share live, man, before we end this interview, if that's okay.
Hey, man, I ain't got no boss. I'll do whatever I want. Do it.
All right, check me out. Yeah, let me do this, man. Shout out to everybody representing the Black Lives Movement and hashtag Alton Sterling, man. Check me out. At the corner store selling my CDs, approached by 2 officers telling me to freeze. Hands up is what they screamed, but before I could proceed, they slammed my face into the hood. Officer, please. What did I do? I'm just a man with mouths to feed. 6 shots into his body, a father gone from his seed. Like the pain from Eric Garner when he said I can't breathe, and every black man who fell victim to police in these streets way before Rodney King. My heart goes out, and I say rest in peace, and I ask God to intercede against all these evil deeds. Hey, listen. Black lives matter. The last of a dying breed. Coach E.
Hey, so just so y'all know, the younger kids listen to this so I can kind of make it to where y'all can understand what just happened. That's somebody who grew up listening to Pac and Nas. But so y'all can feel it a little bit more, this is, just put those words to this and y'all will feel it.
Hey, you just got the raw uncut interview with Coach E, man. They don't know, man. They try to box me in, man. World-class athlete, man, world-class coach, man, with an urban swag, and they can't stand it, man, because all the young black kids with swag who can run those world-class times, they want to mess with Coach E, because I ain't that stale guy, man, that's walking around looking like the prototypical coach, man, but ain't got no heart or no substance. I can bring it back, man. Call me the Tupac of track and field if you want, but guess what? Man, I'm in it for the kids, so you can't knock that.
Hey, I'm with you, man. Your circle just got bigger, brother. That's all I can tell you. Your circle just got bigger, man.
Okay.
You Vegas
respect,
connected, man. You Vegas connected, brother.
Respect, man. Respect.
All right, man. It was real. We're gonna talk. I'll follow you. We're gonna talk, man. I'm gonna get this up. As soon as I get it up, I'm gonna send you a link. Get it to your people. It's gonna get out there. They're gonna hear it. They're gonna be talking.
Let's make it happen, man. God bless.
You too, brother.
All right. Peace.